Well, hello and happy holidays from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy with another episode of Flat Earth Can't Science. Before we get going, I want to thank everybody. The channel's a little less than a month old and we just hit 1,000 subscribers, up from 15 at the start of December. In fact, people are enjoying these videos and I've got over 400,000 minutes of view time. Really makes it worth it to me. And I'd like to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, and share these videos with your friends. Now, due to the holiday season, I was going to do a couple of just informative videos, one on the rotation of the Earth and the other on the scale of the universe. But we had two flat Earth scientists that took it upon themselves to personally attack me, and they did it with such unearned smugness, I decided to go ahead and do a video on them. So our featured flat Earth scientists are going to be Antonio and our old friend Phuket Word. We're going to tag team each other and prove the globe. So our first one is Antonio here. He set up a video in response to another science defender and set up very specific criteria to show what would happen on a globe and what would happen on a flat Earth. Demonstrated quite a bit of unearned smugness when he did this. And I'm going to let you listen to his own words as he describes it. And I'll respond to his challenge by demonstrating those very requirements and forcing him to admit that the Earth is a sphere. Or he'll continue to deny it and prove without question that he has no credibility whatsoever. Despite being beaten up pretty badly recently by me, Phuket Word decided to jump on the bandwagon and toss a few insults my way as well, so I'm going to let him help Anthony prove the globe. Now, I kind of felt bad for Nick after beating him up as badly as I did, and I told him that as long as he stopped slinging nonsense and kind of calmed down a little bit, I'd leave him alone. But I guess he just couldn't help himself. So here you go, guys. Let's go prove the Earth is a sphere. We'll start off with Anthony describing what level is on a sphere.
Now, you see, if I hold this like this, you have a right angle. This is a line that goes to the radius. It goes to the center of the Earth. It's the radius of the Earth. This is how you establish a right angle on a sphere, because you can't establish a right angle on a sphere because it's impossible due to the surface that's being met being curved and not flat. So you have to project an imaginary vertical and then an imaginary tangential line at right angles. That would be this. This would be the horizon, the globe level, or horizon line, or horizontal.
Okay, since we really want Antonio to get locked down on his definitions in this video, this is his horizontal or level on a sphere. We have a line coming from the center of the Earth that is a radius line that comes up to our observation point, and from there we draw a 90-degree turn and make that the level, a perpendicular level.
However, because it doesn't really work on the globe, you have this other thing, which is the light blue line, which is the horizon drop. You see? So, in your globe, you have to project a line from the center of the Earth going through the surface to do a right angle. This right angle in the real world is your horizontal line. In your globe, it's not your horizontal line, it's merely right angles to a straight line. Your horizontal line drops from that right angle, and it drops to the horizon at some point, because you can't have the horizon being on this line, because that would mean, well, that the Earth was flat, okay?
Okay, he keeps skipping back with his terms. So we have the radius line and then we have the perpendicular horizontal level. Then we have this angled line going from our observation point to the horizon. It's a tangent line to the surface of the Earth. A very key point to notice is that this tangent line angles downward to the horizon. It is below the level horizontal line that's perpendicular to the radius of the Earth.
So this is what happens. Now, if you raise the elevation of the camera you make this green line shallower. Okay, so you make the bulge smaller. You can see if I place the camera here, if the target is still here, there will be only a tiny sliver of drop over here.
Okay, so once again, we have the perpendicular level line to the radius of the Earth, and then we're looking downward towards the horizon. Where that tangent line touches the surface of the Earth is the actual horizon. Now we see that if we have a target beyond it, you see how we intercept that target. And when we raise our observation or eye level, that tangent line becomes a little steeper and turns downward even more than the first one did. Again, where it touches the surface of the Earth is our horizon. If we have a target beyond our horizon, now we see more of it because we can see everything to the right of that orange line. We can see everything between the horizon and our observation point to the left of that line. But past the horizon, we cannot see anything to the left of that orange line between the orange line and the surface of the Earth. We will, of course, be able to see anything to the right of the orange line, including the target past the horizon.
Okay, so fudging your figures to try to arrive at some other representation of the real world, because this representation doesn't work, fails in the rest of the representation, because as you raise this higher, your drop, your horizon drop has to increase. Okay, so it becomes further and further away from the globe level or horizontal line. Now, if you do that, if you drop that level further because you've increased your elevation, then it starts getting quite drastic. It starts getting to the point where it's a bit unreal. You're angling down at like 3 degrees. Well, 3 degrees is quite an angle. See, if the sun is 3 degrees above the horizon, that's 6 sun widths. That's rather a lot.
Although we rather smugly suggest that we have to fudge our figures in order to make this work, this is actually how it works. I have no problem with it at all. And yes, as we increase our observation height, the angle down to the horizon increases. As we fly along in airplanes, our angle down to the horizon can be greater than 3 degrees. In fact, during the Red Bull parachute jump from 128,000 feet, the horizon was nearly 6 degrees below the level. This is perfectly normal on the spherical Earth, and we expect the horizon to be below level.
I'll explain it further here. Here we have a straight line, which is the radius, a line perpendicular to that, which is the horizon line, okay, or horizontal line. Then we have a light blue line, which would be the drop to the horizon, okay? This is a theoretical line, this line. If this was actually true, make sure I'm showing everything. If this was actually true, there would be a way of proving it. If instead this was more like true, there'd be a way of proving that.
Well, I do believe there is. On a globe Earth, the horizon will be below the level, and on a flat Earth, the horizon will rise to meet the level.
Okay, obviously, this being a horizon line would present a horizon along that line. So,
now to make this very clear, on a flat Earth, we would be level with the ground, and the horizon would rise to our front and our back to meet that level. There very clearly would be no drop, and the horizon would rise to eye level. You could look either way on a spirit level and see horizon at level from both directions. But don't take my word for it. Let's let Antonio tell us this and give us a test for a flat versus a globe Earth.
so how can we test which of these it might be? Well, here I have a red tube. If you angle it down from an elevation, so choose your elevation, you can make it from ground level if you want. You won't really discern much. Make it from the top of a mountain. Angle it down to the horizon, okay? Fix it angled down to the horizon. Look through this end. You should, if your theory is true, see the horizon. And then leaving this red tube fixed, if you come to this side and look the opposite way, well, can you see how that's veering away from the land, whereas this veers towards the land? Well, when you're looking from this direction, you should be looking up into the sky. Okay.
And there you have it, Antonio's magic test. Now let's review this real quick. On the left, of course, we have a spherical Earth. And what he is saying that if you look at a level horizontal line drawn perpendicular to the radius of the Earth, on a sphere you must look downward to the horizon. Now on the right you see that the horizon will be level with your eye level and a spirit level. Now what he's not telling you is that he has an extremely poor understanding of basic geometry. Now on a sphere, if you look down to the sphere, by definition, the opposite end of your level will be looking up as it's shown on that diagram. On a flat plane, if you see the horizon on one side, you by definition must see the horizon on the other side. It's impossible to get that sort of an angle. So if you look downward at the horizon, you by definition have to find a sphere. The very fact that the horizon is below the level in one direction requires it to be below the level in the other direction, and the only shape that will satisfy that requirement is a sphere.
Now, if instead the Earth is flat and horizon means horizontal, like the word suggests, okay, then taking a thin tube to the top of a mountain, placing it so you can see the horizon, fixing it, looking through this way, seeing the horizon, then over here to look this way through the green tube. If you also see the horizon, it means that the horizon is not part of a curved Earth.
Once again, here's what he's saying. If your horizon is level with that perpendicular line, you are on a flat Earth. If it is below that perpendicular line, you are on a curved Earth.
It is very simple. So, globe earthers, rather than earn your money through critique, how about you go and you show something? Show it.
Well, what Antonio does not realize is the weekend before he put this video out, I went out and did that exact test. And to his extreme disadvantage, I had the video footage waiting for him. Okay, so we went out to the Mackinac Bridge between Michigan's Upper and Lower Peninsula. We're at the southern end at the state park where the lighthouse used to be. We have a 4-foot spirit level with a couple of pennies on it to give us a very accurate sighting to the horizon. And even with this rather crude equipment, you can clearly see the level line of sight is pointing towards the sky. It is well above the horizon. Based on your own criteria, Antonio, you must admit now that the Earth is a sphere. The horizon is clearly below the level. You simply have no choice but to admit that the Earth is a sphere, and I expect you to publish that on your page. Now, just to make sure that you are completely convinced of this, now, just to make sure that you have no wiggle room whatsoever, I'm going to let Nick from Phuket Word not only demonstrate his complete lack of understanding of this subject, but prove your findings as well.
Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. I'm going to take a quick and final look at one of these claims made by Miles Davis that photographs like this cannot be taken on a flat Earth. But I'm going to go through some of the points where he's completely wrong. He's either being very ignorant, very stupid, or very deceptive. Take your pick. Because what's presented here doesn't even agree with what globe Earth defenders would say is eye level. The whole thing about the horizon rising to eye level is an observation that anyone can make as long as we understand what eye level is. And eye level is the horizontal line of sight that goes across the center of your field of view. Your eye level, though, is horizontal, a line of sight that is horizontal. And it just so happens that when you do that, the surface will appear to rise to your eye level.
Okay, so once again, he's starting off with his usual line of confusion. He does not know the difference between eye level and line of sight. Now, your eye level is the physical height of your observation, be it your eye or your camera. That is the perpendicular line to the radius of the Earth, the horizontal line. Your line of sight is what you are looking at. In this case, the line looking at the horizon would be your line of sight towards that target beyond the horizon. Now, in the case of this observation, our eye level or observation height is 210 meters. We are looking at the horizon, which is clearly marked. There is a lighthouse on an island between us and the visible horizon, which is actually above our line of sight from our observation point to the horizon. The level line that is perpendicular to the radius of the Earth at our point of observation does not play any role in this observation other than to give us a baseline to calculate the downward angle to the horizon. Take it away, Nick, and dig yourself a little deeper hole here.
So just to be clear, as it I always have been since looking into flat Earth and discussing how we observe things across the Earth, eye level to me, and I'm pretty sure to most other people investigating the flat Earth, including those who wish to defend the globe, is this perpendicular view to our vertical. So it's a horizontal line of sight that goes off into the distance. So as long as your line of sight is horizontal, then that is your eye level in the dead center of the screen.
No, Nick, it really isn't. Your eye level is your observation height. Your line of sight is what you are looking at. It can be angled level, it can be angled up, or it can be angled down. Changing the direction that you are looking does not change your observation height or your eye level, nor does the cropping of the photograph change your eye level or your line of sight. At most, you are discussing rules of photographic composition. It has absolutely nothing to do with what you are looking at or your eye level.
But here we have Miles claiming to be at just 210 meters and a horizon that isn't anywhere near in line with the eye level or the line of sight. The eye level is not represented here at all, but the claim is made that the horizon is at eye level and that the eye level is generally just the height at which the photograph was taken. So
once again, the eye level has absolutely nothing to do with what your line of sight is showing you. If you look down, it doesn't mean that your eye level is lower. If you look up, it doesn't mean that your eye level is higher. Your eye level is what it is. The direction that you are looking is your line of sight. In this case, our eye level is at 210 meters on a hill. We are looking down to the horizon past a lighthouse.
That eye level is 210 meters. That's it. But if we just have a look at where the actual center line across the field of view is here, it's there. So we know that the line of sight, the direction in which this camera was tilted, was below horizontal and pointing at the bottom of these cliffs. That's where the camera was aimed once it was zoomed in. So we do not even have a proper representation of eye level.
Again, Nick keeps going on about this concept that pointing the camera in different directions somehow changes the height of the camera. That is a physical position in space. What direction you point the camera from there does not change the physical location of the camera itself. So once again, not only is this not factual material, Phuket Word is literally making it up as he goes along, and it is complete and utter gibberish.
So, along with this claim that the horizon is lower than the top of this lighthouse at 73 meters, we have drawings like this. So here's a comparison of what it would be like if the Earth were flat, according to one of the people supporting Miles's photograph here. So we have the guy standing on top of a trapane or whatever it's called, and their eye level is horizontal to their vertical. Okay, and we are told that we have this line of sight that goes through the top of the lighthouse and then down here, in which case we should see the sea beyond the lighthouse if we are on a flat Earth. So this is an orthographic side-on view of this image, but it doesn't, for a start, it doesn't show the line of sight to be going through the lighthouse. It shows the line of sight to be going through there. And then this idea that eye level is just a reference point that is perpendicular to the observer's vertical. No, eye level means that your line of sight is also looking at eye level. So what we should have to represent this properly is this green line of sight also going through this line of eye level, which is 90 degrees to the vertical. So it's
okay, so are you guys catching this? According to Phuket Word, line of sight and horizontal is the exact same thing as the eye level of the observer. He is suggesting that the line of sight should go straight out level from 210 meters, with that being in the center of the photograph, and then somehow we're supposed to see the lighthouse below it. Now here's the level with the pennies on it at the Mackinac Bridge. As you can see, we are clearly level with the two pennies looking straight down the edge of the level. You may also notice that I deliberately cropped this photo so that the pennies were probably only a quarter of the way down the image from the top. They are certainly not in the center of the image. Yet we have absolutely no problem determining what the camera level is here. It's level with the top of that spirit level. We have no problem identifying that the horizon is actually below the level of those two pennies. We have no difficulty in telling that the bridge deck is above our horizontal eye level. And finally, even though the photograph itself is not centered, it doesn't change the relationships of the structures to each other, and we can clearly see them.
So the comparison was made for a view that would take place on a curved spherical Earth. Sighting through the lighthouse misses the horizon, and the MSL means the mean sea level. So again, we have this assumption that the observer his down is vertical to the center of a spherical Earth. So that gives him an eye level that's kind of way above horizontal, looking up into the sky like that. I mean, this is just ridiculous anyway. That isn't eye level by anyone's standards. Even the worst, most ignorant globe Earth defender wouldn't put eye level up there, I don't think.
No, Phuket, that is exactly right. Eye level is 210 meters above the ground. You know, clearly you don't understand this and you're amused by it, but I am here for one to tell you that ignorance is not funny.
And then again, we have this claim that there is a line of sight going through the top of the lighthouse, and of course here it doesn't appear to hit the sea, so this would appear to validate the claim that this photograph is taken on a spherical Earth, with the horizon being the water curving away from us in the distance. And I would like to ask the question, really, when you look at the horizon being here, just below the lighthouse, what about the fact that on any Earth, flat or round, how can the horizon be higher than the island?
This is what I love about Phuket Word. First, he carefully describes this image not 3 minutes ago, and now he's completely mystified as to how the horizon could possibly be above the island. As you can clearly see from the line of sight, it goes from 210 meters through the lighthouse into the sea, and the horizon is out past it. I mean, seriously, Nick, if you're going to sit down and be a proponent of the flat Earth, at least know how the flat Earth works. How many times have you pointed this out? Clearly, that line goes into the sea. The horizon is past it. How many times have you pointed out that on a flat Earth, the horizon rises all the way up to eye level, which in this case would be 210 meters, some 150 meters above the lighthouse? Now, on a curved Earth, of course, you have an observer at 210 meters, you have the lighthouse at 73 meters, and the line of sight from your line of observation to the lighthouse does not hit the sea at all. Now, I'm going to describe this a little better here in a minute with a different drawing, but we have a little bit of Phuket idiocy coming up here that I think that we all ought to take a moment and just have a listen to.
So what is your claim here? Do you claim to be looking into a bulge of curvature, that this water is in fact rising up in front of you and it's not an optical phenomenon? Because you are ignoring perspective, so one can only assume that you really believe that this water is actually rising up physically in front of you rather than being an optical phenomenon.
Okay, so here's the actual orthographic view. We have the observation height of 210 meters on the left. We have the lighthouse just kind of poking up past that line of sight, which goes directly to the horizon and then goes off into space. This is just the normal curve of the Earth. There's no tsunami out there with the water rising up and coming in to flood Scotland or wherever this is. To even consider that is ludicrous. But guess what old Nick does?
So if that's your claim, then this horizon, this water level, is higher than the island. So what's happening there? What is happening there? Is this water not going to come rushing back down, cascading over the island because it's suddenly got higher than the island? It's only...
I'm sorry, I just can't take it anymore. That's enough of Nick. But looking at this drawing right here, we see a couple of things. We see that the horizon is clearly below our perpendicular level at our observation point. We have to look down to the horizon. We can clearly see that a much shorter object between us and the horizon appears to be above the horizon. And we saw that on a flat Earth it would be impossible for the horizon, which rises to our eye level at 210 meters, to appear below the level of the lighthouse. So Antonio, not only have we proved the globe Earth to your criteria, Phuket Word was the one that did it. Thank you very much for the science lesson.